Welcome to the Dan Casper Show podcast, your chance to catch the full show anytime, anywhere. If you missed it live on the radio, no worries. We've got you covered with all the sports talk, opinions, interviews, and conversations from the show. From the Packers to the Brewers to the biggest stories in sports and around Wisconsin, it's all right here. This is the Dan Casper Show podcast. All right, here we go. Halftime's over with, and we are on to the third quarter, people. Thanks for hanging out with us and, well, making us a part of your start as you begin a brand new work week here. What is the best and worst from the weekend for you? You can let us know by hitting us up with a message on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line at 715-830-1912 or hang out in the Section 105 chat room, too. You can do that as well. We spent the second hour talking some football, some Packers football. So we'll get back to that here in a little bit, or here a little bit later on. But Brewers-wise, baseball-wise, the Brewers, off day today, but they begin the week still in first place. Best record in Major League Baseball by one game over the Dodgers. And right now, if you look at MLB.com's latest power rankings last week, they had the Brewers at 2, even though they took 3 out of 4 against the Dodgers. But now they've put the Brewers. It says Will Leach, who wrote the piece last week, wrote it again this week, says, congrats at last to the Brewers, who for the first time all season are atop these power rankings. They're actually the 4th team to hold the number 1 spot this year, and the others are, like them, from the National League. So, what did they say about the Brewers? The Brewers remain on pace for the first 100-win season in their history. They've actually won 90 games or more 12 times, with 7 of those coming in the last 18 years and 5 coming in the last 8. This is as good as it has ever been for Brewers fans. So we got 31 games left to go here for the crew. Sitting there with 81 wins. They need 19 out of their 31 to get to that pace. It's definitely doable. I don't think there's anybody that would probably question whether they're going to do it or not, but it's definitely on the table, and I think you look at the schedule, it kind of maybe sets up for that, but 100 wins isn't the most important thing. I think right now your goal is division title, securing at least one of the top 2 spots in the National League postseason. 1 seed or 2 seed. Avoid that first round bye. Don't avoid that first round bye. Avoid that first round matchup. Because right now, if the playoffs started, if the playoffs started today, Brewers would be the 1, Dodgers would be the 2. You'd have a series of between the Braves and the Padres, a 3 and a 6, and then the Phillies and Cubs. Wow. I mean, Phillies, Cubs for a 4-5, if it stays that way, that's a heck of a wild card matchup. Heck, the way the Padres are played, too. Braves-Padres would be a heck of a matchup. Avoid that at all costs. Avoid that, man. Ugh. That's tough. Regardless of who the Brewers then would play in the second round, it'd be a tough matchup. No question about it. This National League postseason, I think right now, I know we got like 30-some-odd games, depending on who you're a fan of. I think these are the 6 teams that are currently in the postseason. I think are the 6 teams that are going to have that spot. Now, could we see some shuffling in terms of who's the 1 seed or maybe who the NL East winner is? Because the Braves are just holding on to a 3-game lead over the Phillies. And you've got Braves-Dodgers starting tomorrow. So that definitely can change. But I think for the most part, these are the 6 that are going to make the postseason out of the National League. Diamondbacks are right there. They're a couple games back, but if I had to wager a guess, a bet, I think right now this is the 6 that make the postseason. American League, I have no idea. I mean, I'm confident in saying probably 4 teams we know are going to make it. That's Tampa, that's Boston, and that's the Yankees. So 3 out of the AL East. I'm confident in the White Sox finishing this thing off and winning their division. After that, the AL West, Is it going to be Houston? Is it going to be Texas? That final wild card spot then, Cleveland is tied with Texas, but Cleveland slight advantage. So 3 for sure in the American League I'm confident in. High chance of 4 with the White Sox holding on to their lead in the division because the closest one for the AL Central is Cleveland at 3.5 back, so maybe they can make a little run. We've seen Cleveland do this before in the past. But after that, I have no idea. No idea. But even though the Brewers lost last night in the Little League Classic, still a successful weekend, taking 2 out of 3. Especially you go back to Friday and the matchup that everybody was pumped up for, everybody was talking about, everybody was hyping up. Sale, Miz. Miz, Sale. Even though they really directly didn't go up against each other, but we know. It lived up to the billing. It was low scoring, 2-1, grinded out till the end. And then game 2 on Saturday. You get Logan Henderson on the mound. And Logan Henderson, the previous start was that Scooble Dodgers start. And he goes out there and pitches another great game. Logan Henderson this year, 8-2 with a 2.60 ERA. Quietly, I think from a national perspective, not necessarily from a Brewers perspective, but I think from a national perspective, just quietly being super good this year. He's pitched in 13 games, 18 total in his career. In his career, he is 11-2 in 18 games with a 2.38 ERA. Only 94, almost 95 pitches total he's pitched in his career. This year he's pitched a little over 69. He's probably going to be under 100 by the time the postseason starts. So you would think, hopefully, possibly, pretty refreshed. Not a lot of strain on that arm. But Logan Henderson, to me, is maybe one of the more underrated performers, again, from a national sense, for the Brewers this year. Dude is just going out there and every time, every 5-6 days, whatever it is, taking that ball and putting together some dang good starts, some quality starts. I mean, okay, let's look at his starts this year. You know, he pitched 2 innings on April 4th against Kansas City. Started that game, pitched 2 innings, 2 earned runs. That was probably his worst game. If you really look at it, I mean, you had the St. Louis game back on July 9th. He went 5 1/3, gave up 3 earned runs. August 10th against San Diego, 6 1/3, 3 earned runs. He has not given up more than 3 earned runs in any start of his career. Knock on wood. But given the fact that it was just 2 innings and 2 earned runs, maybe April 4th was his worst start this season, and that was the first game of the season for him. But this guy continues to build the confidence and hit the 100-pitch mark on Saturday. First time this season. Opponent's batting average against him this year. I mean, the month of May, 197. July, 173. August, 191. Different than the Miz. Different. He doesn't overpower. Maybe he doesn't do anything really flashy. It's like, whoa. So he doesn't get the hype. He doesn't get the talk like that. But he wins. He puts his team in position to win ball games. You know, when we look back at this series against the Braves, I think, you know, a couple other things that stand out to me from this series. Good to see Contreras kind of maybe get off that schneid. I mean, he hit well this weekend. And we've been talking, it's been a struggle for Contreras. But you look at his last 7 games. He's now hitting .448 in his last 7 games and slugging .621. Nearly had the walk-off home run last night to center. Nearly had that. But it's good to see him swinging the bat better. 4 singles in game 1 of the series, couple hits Saturday, couple hits last night. Because you need him to be a threat at the plate. You need him back to hitting the ball incredibly well once you get to that postseason. And then, Jackson Chourio has been hitting incredibly well. He, to me, is just quietly, too, having a very solid season. I think, people know who Jackson Chourio is, but I think people are like maybe just saying, oh, yeah, it's a typical Jackson season. But the guy missed a ton of time at the beginning of the year. He's hitting 280 above career highs. Career high in that. Career high above his career average and on base, above his career average in OPS. He ain't going to get the 2020 season unless he steals 7 more bases here. But then how about Lara? Lara, in his last 7 games, he's hitting 333. But if you expand it a little bit further, 47 at-bats, Luis Lara's hitting 277. He's kind of putting up the Sal Frelick numbers that Sal Frelick was doing last year. Now, Sal Frelick sounds like he's going to return for this series against the Mets, and maybe at a good time if Garrett Mitchell needs a couple days off after getting hit in the forearm. But we've seen what Lara can do defensively too. But yeah, now we're month and change, 31 games left to go here for the Brewers. And we're all focused on a week from today. That series against the Cubbies beginning a 4-game series in Wrigley. Take care of your business beforehand. You have to take care of business with the Mets starting tomorrow. You can't go into New York and drop in that series. You return home against the Rangers. Yes, it's a desperate Rangers team trying to hold on to a playoff spot, trying to hold on to a division, maybe potentially a division lead if they can overtake the Astros. But they're a 500 at best team right now. They're under 500 right now. You got to win that series. Don't look ahead to a week from today. Pat Murphy, this is his thing. Everybody knows it. Win tonight. Win tonight. Win tonight. And they have to do that. They can't look ahead to the Cubbies. They can't. But the worst thing that could happen to the Cubbies, or the worst thing that could happen to the Brewers, is you get to that Cubs series and all of a sudden your lead in the division's like at 3. That can't happen. All right, let's take a quick break. Plenty more Brewers talk, plenty more Packers talk coming your way. VFW Post 305, best and worst from the weekend. We'll hit that up too. We'll be right back in just a few minutes. What's the latest and greatest going on at Hy-Vee in Eau Claire? Well, it might be a week where you start to think about back-to-school lunches, snacks. I know some schools are already in session or back to school, but this might be the time where you're like, all right, got to start thinking about the kiddos' lunches or some snacks and such. Well, head on over to Hy-Vee in Eau Claire, and this week you can check out their weekly flyer. First of all, you can make sure you follow their Facebook page, Hy-Vee in Eau Claire, to check out the flyer, but also if they have like a day sale or 3-day sale. But if you're looking on there right now, all right, if you look it up, you got Hy-Vee bread that's on sale. All right, PB&Js, those are a big one for my kid when he goes back to school. How about some frozen pizzas? Jack's frozen pizzas for $3.99. Maybe football games or soccer, or got some games going on this week and you need a quick meal idea. There you go. Load up the deep freezer with some Jack's frozen pizza. Or maybe you want some sweet tooth. Yeah, maybe you want to take some bakery goods to back to school. $5.99, 12 count of their delicious cookies over there too. If you haven't had some of the fresh baked cookies from Hy-Vee, you are missing out. So, but again, you can check out, they've got deals too on Pepsi products, $6.99 for 6 counts. So if you want to check it all out, go to Hy-Vee in Eau Claire's Facebook page, check out their flyer for this week's deals, and make sure you are following Facebook or following Hy-Vee on Facebook, just in case they have another day sale or 3-day sale. And you can save money at the gas pump with their perks. One other thing with the Brewers that popped up this weekend that I think surprised everybody. Brandon Woodruff. We have a Brandon Woodruff update. When was the last time we talked about Brandon Woodruff? It's been a hot minute, right? Just assume that he was going to have surgery. He's done this year, probably going to be done next year. That's changed. Is it a chance we might see Brandon Woodruff pitch again in 2026? What tomfoolery is this? There's a chance, a small chance. So where has this come? So Brandon Woodruff underwent some scans, 4-week scan, and the scans showed that there was some unexpected healing. And now he will not need surgery. So instead, he's going to begin a 5-week throwing progression and continue some other plyometric work as part of his rehab. Now, the chances are low, very low, that he could potentially return at the back end of the season. Pat Murphy saying, I think there's a low possibility, but I think there's a possibility. We also have to think of the reality of it. Now he has to pick up the ball. Now it's the progression back. How quickly? How much risk is there in that? But we'll do anything we can to have Woody as a possibility for any part of this season. Nobody had that on their bingo card. So, Brandon Woodruff did confirm to Kurt Hogg of the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel that he will no longer need surgery due to the surprising amount of healing that was revealed in his 4-week scan. Brewers.com says, suddenly plans for going under the knife were scrapped in exchange for a 5-week throwing progression. Man. So, I don't think it happens. I think a lot of people don't think it's going to happen. But this would be such a awesome story, wouldn't it be? It'd be such a cool story. Make the movie right now. Brewers make the postseason. They need an out to maybe get to the World Series. In steps Brandon Woodruff. K's the guy. Brewers are off to the World Series. Man, that's something that Hollywood makes, for crying out loud. That's a Disney sports movie. I don't think it'll happen. But the fact that we're August 24th possibly happening. Oof. Brewers.com goes on to say, while faint hope remains that Woodruff can get back to proving that for Milwaukee this season, a scenario that seemed widely far-fetched just a month ago, it was clear his avoiding another procedure was the most important development from the day in Milwaukee. Just 1 month after being forced to discuss the finality of his career, Woodruff can exchange rehab plans for hopes of suiting up for Milwaukee and return to the mound, a possibility that's suddenly much closer on the horizon. Murphy saying, it's not for sure that he's going to come back and everything's going to be easy, but I think it does his mind good that I don't need surgery. I'm going to give it a try. Everybody likes hearing that. You thought you need a procedure. You thought you needed to do something. And you find out, you know what? I can live normal again. So I'm excited for him. You know, if somehow he makes it back. Again, I'm putting his single digits. But hey, we've seen guys come back from injuries, some crazy comebacks before. So put a little bit of that possibility on there. That would be the morale boost that this team, it's not like this team needs a huge morale boost, but I mean, you add Woodruff in there, just him suiting up and returning to the team. Oh, those guys will love it. I don't think you could throw him out there as a starter, though, unless something really drastic happens. Let's just, for argument's sake, Woodruff's cleared. He's cleared, and he's doctors clear him. He's done his rehab. He can pitch. And it's the postseason. You got to come up with your roster. Just for argument's sake. What do you do? What do you do? I don't think you throw him as a starter unless something really bad happens to one of your top four, and those top four being Miz, Harrison, Henderson, and Dustin May. But do you carry Woodruff and maybe have him as a bullpen guy? A guy that you throw out there for one inning? A guy that maybe you throw out there like, okay, we need things to settle down here. An opener? Just to get off on a good start and then hand the ball off to somebody else? Do you carry Brandon Woodruff? For argument's sake, I want to poll you guys. I want to ask you guys and gals this question. If he is clear, and let's say we don't see him in the regular season, okay? We don't see him for the rest of the regular season, but he is cleared. He's good to go to pitch, and you have to turn in your postseason roster. Do you carry Brandon Woodruff? Do you put Brandon Woodruff on that roster? Even if we don't see him this regular season, but he's good to go. Or do you give that spot to somebody that has pitched down the stretch here? What would you do if you're Matt Arnold? What would you do if you were Pat Murphy? I mean, I think Brandon Woodruff's going to be with the team regardless. He's going to be in the dugout probably, even if he's not pitching, if he's not on the roster. I think the Brewers would be stupid not to have him in there. But from a performance standpoint, if he's cleared in his bullpen sessions, his rehab goes great, and you have the decision to make, what do you do? Try to keep the heart out of it. Do you say, yep, we're going to put him on, and he's going to be kind of a relief or an opener type of dude? Hard not to want that, right? Let me know. I'm curious to get your thoughts. All right. We got to take a quick break. Back with plenty more, though, coming up in just a few minutes. When it comes to feeding your family, quality matters. And for great tasting meats, you don't have to look any further than Mike's Star Market in Eau Claire. From fresh cuts of beef and pork to delicious brats, steaks, and all of your favorites for the grill, Mike's Star Market brings you the quality and service that you expect from a true local butcher shop. Whether you're firing up the grill, planning a family meal, or stocking up the freezer, stop by Mike's Star Market and experience the difference of shopping local. Mike's Star Market in Eau Claire. Quality meats, hometown service, and a tradition that you can taste. So we've been talking, looks like a lot of you, we've been talking about Brewers and a little Brandon Woodruff and such, but it looks like a majority of you that are chiming in on our Woodruff question. And if you missed it, it's a big if, but if he gets cleared to pitch in the postseason, do you add him to the playoff roster or not? And it looks like majority of you say bullpen. And if he does get cleared and if they do add him to the team, I would agree with you. It would have to be like bullpen, or you're going to use him as a I don't think you need to use an opener, but maybe an opener. You can only do like an inning, maybe two. Something like that. You can't do a whole lot more, and at least one outing for Woodruff. And he is one of those where it's like, okay, you're pitching an inning, or you're pitching a game here for an inning, and then you're not available for the next one. You know what I mean? I'd still be nervous, really nervous. So, but if you want, you can continue to send those on over, your thoughts on the situation. Brewers have the off day today before taking on the New York Mets in a series starting tomorrow. Then they'll return home quickly for a 3-game set this weekend against the Rangers, and then just a quick trip down south to take on the Cubbies for a 4-game set at Wrigley Field. Let me double check, but I believe after this series against the Mets, okay, they got a trip at Baltimore too and Philly, but no more West Coast stuff here for the Brewers. They're pretty much staying in the Midwest, a little bit to the east here, obviously with New York starting tomorrow. So no more West Coast trips. We're done with that. Not a whole lot of traveling. When they do travel, it's not that far. So hopefully that's a bonus, and hopefully that's something that benefits the Brewers down the stretch here. But definitely, even without the Brewers play, if you're kind of into a little bit of scoreboard watching and just kind of keeping an eye on how everything is maybe going to shape up for this race for the top spot in the National League, or at least a top 2 spot in the National League, there's a couple games or the division against the Cubbies. Don't want to overlook that. Cubs do face Arizona in Arizona tonight, an Arizona team that is trying to stay in this playoff chase, trying to catch up to the Padres. So you got that. But tomorrow, you can do a little scoreboard watching and pay attention. You got the Dodgers visiting the Braves, along with Cubs and Diamondbacks continuing their series. If you're a Brewers fan, that's the two teams you're really focusing on now. Cubs and then the Dodgers. Take care of the division, and then you can worry about top spot or top two spots. And I know some of you have talked about this. I've seen it talked about online. And it's going to continue to happen until we get to the postseason. It's going to be a topic that's thrown out there. It's going to be a discussion. Would you rather have the 1 seed or the 2 seed? Because if MLB playoffs started, today, you're talking about Brewers as the 1 and maybe potentially facing either the Phillies or the Cubs, 4-5 matchup. Whereas the 2 seed would face the winner between the Braves and the Padres. The Braves being the 3 and the Padres being the 6. So some are wondering, would you rather be the 2? Because you'd rather face the Braves or maybe rather face the Padres than either the Cubs or the Phillies. That's being thrown out there. It's being discussed. It's being talked about. I want to wait till we get closer. And I don't like getting into rather face. Regardless, Brewers are going to be facing a good team. If the goal is to get to a World Series, to win a World Series, you're going to have to beat good teams. The National League has got some good teams in it. The National League is the better league. Of their top 6 versus the American League, the National League has the top 6 teams. So it's going to be tough, very tough, to get through that league when it comes to the postseason, regardless of who they're going to be playing in their first matchup in the postseason. And I guarantee you the Brewers, they ain't worried about that. They ain't going to be focusing on, well, should we lose this game or should we try to focus on getting to 2? I think, 1, you win your division first. Take care of that. Get the home series. And then you focus on remaining in the top 2 to get that bye. And I think the bye is going to mean a little bit to this Brewers team, too, a little bit more to this Brewers team, too, because that way you give some of your young pitchers, some of your pitchers a little bit of an extra rest. And they're trying to do that right now with their 6-man rotation that they're going out there. Trying to give an extra day in between starts for these guys. They're going to prioritize rest. And depending on where things get for the final week of the regular season, do they got stuff locked up or not? They probably won't have a top spot locked up. But if they have a top 2 spot locked up, could they alter their thinking? Could they alter how they go about who gets starts, who they're going to start, this, that, blah, blah? Possibly. Probably a decent chance at that. But I think we're still a little too early to be discussing should they be a 1 or 2, or would they rather be a 1 or a 2. We'll get there when we get there. But regardless, National League's got good teams. Some really good teams. And it's going to be tough for whoever comes out of the National League. They're going to have tough matchups. Tougher than the American League, I would argue. But that's just my opinion. So yesterday, injury-wise, I know Brandon Woodruff is the big one. But Garrett Mitchell left the game yesterday after getting hit in the arm on a pitch. Doesn't seem like it's going to be something too concerning, but it does come at a time, too, where Sal Frelick sounds like he is going to be coming up and joining the ball club for this series against the Mets. So you're going to have the return of Sal Frelick. I think you're going to see kind of that rotation continue, where Lara might be playing center, then Frelick and right. Garrett will be playing center, then Lara and right. You're going to kind of see that. Mitchell in center, Lara in right. I mean, vice versa. Kind of started to see that before Frelick got put on the injured list. Started to see that rotation kind of form up a little bit. But I think once Frelick's back, you're going to see that kind of continue pick up where it left off. And I think the Brewers have been handling it the right way. Now, an injury obviously can change course. I think, again, talking about postseason will be interesting with when you get to the postseason. Lara, young guy, rookie, right? How many starts do you give him? I mean, you kind of even seeing it how they're handling Cooper Pratt a little bit. I mean, Cooper Pratt hasn't been getting every single start at shortstop. Joey Ortiz is still getting some starts at shortstop. Did last night. Hamilton. That was a sweet double play that Hamilton turned. And he did have the little bit of a hiccup. I know it wasn't charged with an error, but, Hamilton, for some of the stuff that he does defensively, that's why he's still on this team too. So you've seen the Brewers, I think, I'll be honest, I don't know how many other teams are like this, but they've been really interchanging their lineups, adjusting it. I mean, Ortiz is still getting reps at shorts. You've had Hamilton getting reps. I mean, it's been all over. Outfield, same thing. When Mitchell plays, though, he's center field. Jackson can give you reps at center field. Mitchell seems to be the only guy that when he's out there, he's like, okay, that's a center fielder. That's the only spot he's playing. Bowers, right field first. Vaughn played third base and first base. Terang's played short and second. Frelick, he has the ability to play center, but he hasn't done it this year yet, I don't believe. But it just seems like Garrett's the only dude that straight up plays center field, or in this case, too, Yelly's probably just straight up DH when he does come in and play. All right, we got to take our final break here. We'll wrap up the third hour with a little VFW Post 305 best and worst from the weekend. We'll hit that up coming up after these quick words. Looking for your next great night out? Well, make it the VFW Post 305 in Eau Claire with live music, exciting events happening throughout the month, great food, cold drinks, and a fun, welcoming atmosphere. There's always a reason to stop by. Whether you're meeting up with friends or looking for something fun to do, the VFW Post 305 has something for everyone. So make sure you follow the VFW Post 305 on Facebook to stay up to date with all their latest events and entertainment. Let's do VFW Post 305 best and worst from the weekends. I know a couple of you have already mentioned it, but my best of the weekend, I'm going to have to go with Jack Strand. Bloomer native, had himself another impressive performance this past weekend for the Falcons. And he, threw his first touchdown pass, ran for one his first week of the season. So he's been pretty good. He finished 12 of 17 for 212 yards in that game. So I think right now, if you're Atlanta, yeah, you got Tua, you got Michael Penix Jr., who's coming back. But if you're Atlanta, can you afford to put him out on waivers and have a team potentially claim him and make them their backup quarterback? So Atlanta, we talked about it with Green Bay in the last hour with some of these roster guys, these bubble guys, dudes that are on the line of making the team. They're doing their job. They're making these decisions tough. They're making these decisions tough for the coaches and for the front office by playing well or doing some really good things in the preseason. And Jack Strand is 100% doing that with Atlanta. Sure, Tua and Michael Penix, they're going to be battling out for the starting rep. But the way Jack Strand is playing, it's making the Falcons have a conversation about, do we carry three quarterbacks? And the other part in this thing here, too, is Tua, he's been banged up throughout his career. Michael Penix Jr. obviously has been banged up. So it might be pretty important to make sure that you keep that third quarterback. and that might be Jack Strand. So that was definitely one of the best of the weekend. And I know a couple of you have texted in. Brandon has talked about it quite a bit. So, but yeah, best of the weekend for sure. Worst of the weekend, I know we kind of opened up with it, but just horrific, tragic, awful news out of our friends over in Alma Center with the passing of high school football player Adam Massman. I mean, just absolutely awful, horrific, tragic. I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine what a lot of our friends in Alma Center and his family and friends are going through. So thoughts, prayers to everybody involved in that, but just awful, awfully awful situation, sad situation. So definitely the worst. So all right, coming up next hour, we'll get back to some more Packers talk here as we take a look at the final week of this preseason, final week of camp for the Packers. Who are some players that this is a huge week for them that are maybe on that line that, all right, they do well at joint practice or they do well at Friday night's game that they could win a job? Who do you think is a player or players that are right on that line that they just need one more good week or one more good game to push themselves onto that roster? There's one name. There's one guy that I think has done such a great job in preseason and training camp that I don't know if he's going to make the team even with his play. And I think Green Bay is going to really, really, really hope that they can stash him on the practice squad. But there's one guy that I feel like he has been awfully good this year. I don't know if he's going to be able to have done enough, though, to overtake somebody else. Because that's the other thing, right? Have they done enough, these guys that are on that line, have they done enough to take a job from somebody else? A lot of these guys have probably played well, and a lot of these guys have probably earned themselves a roster spot. But have they played well enough? Have they played well enough to overtake somebody's job? That's what it boils down to. And I think that's going to be the case for some of these players is like, yeah, they did really well. They played really well. They did a good job. They did this. They did that. Definitely deserve a spot. But was it enough to overtake somebody else's job? So I want to highlight one individual coming up here in the next hour. But if you haven't had a chance to give me your scouting report from the Friday night's game, who stood out to you or what stood out to you? All right, you can hit me up on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line, 715-830-1912. Or, again, you can hang out in the Section 105 chat on our video stream on YouTube. So we'll get to that coming up in the next hour. But can continue to send us your VFW Post 305 best and worst from the weekend. Also, if you want to hit up some Brewers talk, what would you do with Brandon Woodruff? Let's say for argument's sake. Just straight up for argument's sake. I know it's slim, and I'd be surprised if it were to happen. But with the news that Woodruff no longer needs surgery and he's going to begin a 5-week throwing program, if he is cleared without having to pitch any of these final games in the regular season, but if he is cleared for the postseason, do you give him a spot on that playoff roster? It would have to be a spot over somebody who is playing right now, probably. Would you do it? Put yourself in Matt Arnold's shoes. Put yourself in Pat Murphy's shoes. It's tough, isn't it? How do you balance being a fan? How do you balance? Because got to win ball games too. Does he give you the best chance over somebody else? And you got to factor in the injury part to it, too. All right, shot clock's going to cut us off, and then we are on to the final quarter, the final hour on this Monday morning. Like I said, we'll open it up, talking some more football, Packers football, as it is the final week of camp, and then we can focus on the regular season. I know for a lot of you, probably saying it is about time. All right, some news updates, and we'll be back in just a second.